Quana, back again with another review. Hope you guys are doing awesome. All right, so this is my episode 3 review of Swarm. This episode is entitled Taste. This was probably, for me, the most humorous episode of the series thus far. So let's just get ready to get into it. But before we even do that, let me just say thank you for all of the new subscribers who have recently come to the channel. I'm so glad you came. I hope you stay and enjoy yourselves. To all of my old subscribers, you know how it is. I love you always and forever. If you are new to this channel and you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button down below and ring the bell for notifications so that you can be notified whenever I drop a new video. And you guys have just been giving me so much love and energy that, you know, I had to come back for more. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. The episode starts with a clip of Marissa and behind the camera, Dre, coming from a Nyjah concert. And I love this clip. This clip gives us so much information. First of all, get into Miss Chloe Bailey's look in this clip. She's got her long locks in this clip, which is such a difference from her look as the older adult Marissa. And I really like it because it kind of echoes back to her younger years with Chloe and Halle. And we see that she is a real hardcore Nyjah fan, much different than what we saw from her in episode 1. And all of the things that Dre had been echoing in the first 2 episodes, we really hear that it is really Marissa who has this hardcore love and belief in Nyjah, calling her more than a woman, she's a goddess, calling her their sister, really implanting the seeds for what would later on become Dre's obsession. So my belief is that really, even though Dre is obsessed with Nyjah, she is more obsessed with Marissa. And this just, to me, proves it all the more that that obsession was first birthed through Marissa and through their relationship. And so she just looks at Nyjah as an extension of that, in my personal opinion. I love how when they're coming out of the garage, though, she can't find the car. Again, I just think the humor in this episode was really what we needed from a break in, you know, although episode 2 was quite humorous as well. This one was much more lighthearted in its humor, but not too much on that, because we also get this incredible kill scene that happens really early into the episode, where we get to see that Marissa has, and this is actually the first scene, but I just wanted to talk about the other one first. The very first scene is Dre killing this YouTube star. I don't even know if we find out what this guy's name is, but he definitely is got a big platform on YouTube, because he's got more than one YouTube placard up on his wall and a big old house. And she kills old boy, you know, Misery style, Annie Wilkes style, with a hammer to the kneecap. Takes old boy out. I love that he immediately cries. Like, he's like, I'm not holding back. This pain hurts. This hurts. And the fact that when she, you know, he's asking her, you know, why are you doing this? And she goes to ask him, you know, who's your favorite artist? And he says Little Dribble or whatever. I was definitely getting Tekashi 6ix9ine vibes with that one, with like, he's a pedophile who couldn't make a hit without a feature to save his life. I mean, no shade, but all the shade, right? And then when she goes to show him why he's even doing this, he's like, nigga, Twitter? Like, best line, one of the best lines of the show, hands down. But not too much more than that, because he gets that hammer to the head, and our girl goes on to vibing while she is mopping up the blood in her drawers. So I feel like this show is going to have so many iconic moments in terms of just the absurdity of that moment. Like, we see that, like, Dre is not serious at all. Like just be for real, she is just not serious at all. And then she goes to pour the baking soda down on the ground to kind of help clean up the blood. And then she's in this man's shower, going through his pantry, stealing all his snacks. Again, I really feel like the show keeps doubling down, not just on, her obsession with Marissa and Naija, but also the fact that she's really locked in this state of like youthfulness where she doesn't have maturity, or she's not an adult all the way. Because when she walks into the pantry, she goes to the fridge and she's like, he ain't got nothing but healthy stuff in here. I'm not for this. She goes to the pantry and starts taking all the sodas and all the snacks and everything else. And right to her left is a liquor bar. Got Crown Royal sitting right there. And she looks at it for a second and then looks away immediately, because as our girl has already told us, she does not drink. I definitely think this would be like very confusing for police officers trying to investigate the scene, because they're like, is this a kid? But she really is kind of locked in, at least in my opinion, that childlike state. Let me know down below in the comments if you're picking up on those like childlike vibes from her in this episode as well. And then she gets a notification from Marissa. Now this is confusing as all get out to me, because earlier when we see her use Marissa's phone, we can very clearly see her texting. Now it's almost as though the phone is running on its own. I don't know if she's just got these messages scheduled to go out at a certain time, but it's information on a new victim, Annie Dudley, who is kind of like a stand-in for Tommy Lauren, or any kind of like just right-wing girly who likes to bash on women in popular culture and everything like that, and is talking about Naija being militant, being too black, reminding her that she has little white girl fans, and what are you going to do about that kind of vibe. And so Marissa is like, what's her casket size? It's really layered, because it seems like this is real, at least from the POV that they're giving us. Like, these messages are real, but at times these messages almost feel like they're part of her psychosis, that they're happening and it's not visible to how it's happening. Even some certain information that she gets later on that she couldn't have gotten before this moment. Like, this information she could have put on a timer and had it set off to kind of like alert her that like it was time to go, and also let's move on to the next one. But the messages she gets later, that doesn't jive, and so it really becomes kind of spooky as far as like how much of this is actually happening just in her mind. But she heads off to go and kill this next victim. Y'all, get into the scene where she pulls over on the side of the road and she's looking at that clip of Marissa again, and then she gets information from other members of the swarm as far as giving her the information for how to find Alice Dudley. And all of a sudden you hear some water flowing. Girl is peeing on the side of the road. I have never, she masterminded how to make this happen, that she's like sitting on the edge of the car. I ain't never heard such a thing. Like, where was this when I was a little kid and my parents were making me like squat and I was on the side of the road crying because I didn't want anybody to see me, and they were holding the car doors open, like traumatized. Hopefully I'm not sharing too much. Let me know down below in the comments if your parents used to do that back in the day. I feel like kids today wouldn't have that experience because there's so many more places to stop. But back in the day, like, yeah, we were developed, but like you would be on them road trips and there would be nothing. So you would just have to go where you could go. But she gets into following this girl to the gym. The scene where oh boy is like, are you being racist to her? Like, not letting her in? Like, aren't you like Crystal? Like, or whatever he called her. Like, your hair, you knew my friend Nick, Nikki or whatever, and acts like he knows her because all black women look alike, and gets her into the club. Like, he's calling old girl for being racist, but he is being racist because he is mistaking her for somebody else completely just on the basis of her being black. But she plays along with it. This is a testament not just to Dominique's acting talents as an actress, but Dre's ability to mimic those around her, because she mimics the vibe that he's giving her and is able to further trick him into believing she is who he says, and then also to get away from him so she can go off on her little expedition trying to find this woman. She picks up that kettlebell and she gets into the elevator, and I was just ready for her to swing that kettlebell at old girl, but not too fast, because somebody else gets in the elevator and they have got a cachet jacket on. and she gets a message, and this is what I'm talking about. She gets a message from Marissa saying follow the jacket, right? Okay, so now we done echoed Misery. Now we're about to echo the Matrix with follow the white rabbit, right? Marissa is telling her to follow the jacket. She could not have known that. So that can't be, I'll be correct. Like, let me know your theories in the comments, because I am like really on a hunt now trying to figure out like who is sending these messages. Did she give this number out to someone else? Like, this has to be in her head. But we hear that alarm go off and it's telling her to follow the jacket, and she does. And she uses that proximity to him. She sneaks into his house. First of all, who does that? And oh boy, has got a whole behind skunk sitting on his couch, keeping a skunk as a pet. I'm gonna tell you what, that might actually be a smart idea, right? Because if the skunk did feel threatened, like somebody broke into the house and it did feel threatened, it could spray them, and like that would really be a powerful deterrent. Like, I don't know much about like skunks. I don't know that I would want to have one in case it accidentally let something loose, but I'm just saying it might be a good idea. So like, just think on that for a second. Let me know down below in the comments if anybody in here has ever known someone who had a skunk for a pet. But oh boy is really obsessed with this skunk because he got a whole behind skunk paintings on the wall. She makes up a lot that she's kind of like running from her boyfriend, and he goes to take care of her. Get into like how he tells her like she got cute kneecaps. Like, who is walking around telling somebody they got cute kneecaps? But George is a special kind of nut, and I feel like really him and Dre would have low-key have been a cute couple had she not just been using him to get in to see Cache and get into seeing Naija. Like, I would love to see his character come back if they were to do a season 2, because their vibes together were cute because he's so quirky. He goes to fix her a snack, and it is literally like broccoli and olives. She's like, you ain't got no, he's like, you ain't got no juice, no soda, no nothing. He's like, no, I used to be overweight. I eat real clean and healthy now. Like, get into, I'm about to be on his diet, okay? So I can lose these pounds, so I can get ready for this Beyonce concert. I'm about to be on some broccoli and olive type stuff. She's like, well, I got my own food. She pulls her food out and finds out that he has an addiction to food, so he got rid of all his food, so she doesn't eat it right away. But they have this really good conversation around, or at least the beginnings of a conversation around addiction. And he asked her, has she ever been addicted to anything? And she's like, well, yeah, but it never really goes away. And it's not even an addiction to killing, although it is. Her addiction is to Naija and to Marissa. Like, that's definitely what she's talking about, and the fact that it never really goes away. But later that night, she pulls out them snacks, and boy, they like start eating them snacks like they are making love to this food. Pause. Teacher moment here, because there's a book that I make my students read called How to Read Literature Like a Professor, and one of the very first chapters, I want to say it's like chapter 2, is called Nice to Eat With You. And it's all about how food is an act of communion, and how it doesn't have to be literal communion of like the wine and the bread at church, but anytime people get together and they eat, that it means something. It's a bonding of their characters. It's a bonding of how their relationship is going to be, and if the meal goes good or goes bad or whatever happens with the meal, it's indicative of their relationship. So them eating this food together, and her like pulling him into her darkness, back into his addiction, it's, to me, it's just so much more than just a comical scene of them eating food and then ended up in bed together with food all around them. It really says to me like, she's brought him into the dark side. She's corrupted him. And I think definitely if there were a season 2, I could definitely see a world in which, excuse me, George could be helping her out on some of her missions. But ultimately we find out that he works the concert circuit, and he's working this final concert for Cache, and he's going to be there. And so he takes her to work with him to see what he does, and she gets to go to the concert. And it is just just one incredible interaction after the other, which Dre just gets into these situations where she shouldn't be able to get this proximity to Naija, but she does. Ultimately, she finds out that there's an after party, but he really didn't want to go. He wanted to go back to the house and chill with her, and she wants to make her his new boo thing. But she drags a boy down into the lower levels of the conference, the stadium, and locks him into a freezer. Now, funny for many reasons. One, because Cachet's cake is in the freezer, so like he's trapped in there with this cake, so y'all know he about to tear that cake all the way up. But then two, again, she didn't kill him. I think that's really important because it kind of is indicative or suggestive of the fact that like she had no reason to kill him, because again, she only goes after people who either get in her way or are against Naija or Marissa. And this definitely leaves the door open for him making a comeback. But she makes it to the after party, and y'all, like, there's just no way that this woman should be able to get to the after party. But why did the very first person she talked to at the after party talk about his name is Jesse and he's an actor on Grey's Anatomy? Like, what are you doing? Donald Glover, Janine Neighbors, what are y'all doing? Like, y'all are really wild for that. And he starts saying like, hey, name it all of his filmography, talking about The Butler. I low-key forgot Jesse Williams was even in The Butler, but like that was wild as all get out. Like the fact that like they name dropped Jesse Williams, this, again, I just love that. I love to see it. This gives me so many like memories about Atlanta and things Atlanta would do. But ultimately she moves closer and closer in to Naija, and she gets to this dessert cart. I couldn't tell at first if it was a plum or if it was like a chocolate ball, but or like one of those like cupcake ball things that they make nowadays, but she gets whatever it is, she's eating it and making it look like the best thing ever. It was really reminding me of Janet Jackson in Poetic Justice eating that plum, and talking, or no, it was Tupac eating the plum, because I can't remember, it was Janet Jackson eating the plum, and he was talking about it was nasty, and she rubbed it on her chest. It reminded me of how she was eating that plum. She starts eating it, and then we find out that this is a hallucination, and she's not eating this, but low-key, she's moving closer into Naija, and she manages to bite her. Like, the surrealness of that scene and how she was even getting close enough to her to bite her on the face like that is wild. In case you didn't know, there was a party back in 2018 or 2019 featuring another pop icon, Queen herself, who this show is loosely based around, and she was bit by somebody at the party. And then another famous female comedian leaked the tea and said it was the star of Love and Basketball herself, none other than Sanaa Lathan. Now, Sanaa denied that this happened, that she was not the one who bit Beyonce, but if she did, it would be a love bite. But when Dre runs out of the party, because of course everybody just witnessed her bite Naija and was like, why would you do that? The dudes on the dock is like, hey, that's the girl who started Love and Basketball. Now, obviously it's not, right? So was this mistaken identity? Is Sanaa really innocent in all this? Because, maybe Donald Glover was there. I don't even remember, right? But like, this whole episode was just wild. For no reason wild. But it was so funny, so enjoyable. 10 out of 10. Now we know why it's called Taste, because the taste of Naija that she got, and now that she has had that taste, is she going to be able to stop? Is it the taste of, just like George is not going to possibly be able to stop eating, now she is even more addictive. She got that hit and she's even more addicted. So many layers to this episode, but I want to know what your favorite moments from this episode were. Let me know down below in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video, because the next video is real wild. But if you didn't watch the last video, why are you here? Go back and watch the last video, and don't forget to subscribe so you can watch the next video, and I'll see you in the next one. Toodles!